afternoon, everyone. My name is Tammy Martin.
And I'm John Martin.
And welcome to the final segment of Community Conversations for 2020.
Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Yes, we are the founders of Young Black Leadership Alliance, or YBLA. YBLA is a 14-year nonprofit organization that focuses on building leaders in young Black men and women starting in the 11th grade in high school, through college, and into their young professional years. Our program serves high-achieving young Black men and women, but this does not mean that they do not lack access to resources and social capital. So that's where we come in at. So at YBLA, we pride ourselves on being the best leadership, community service, and college career readiness program in the nation. That's a lot of words.
Yeah.
Our mission is to build leaders that will make a positive impact on their peers, the communities, and eventually the world.
The whole world.
Yes.
Over the past 6 months, YBLA has served the community as a convener to provide information on the Black experience, racial disparities, and actions towards eliminating systematic racism.
Yes.
If you've attended any of our segments, we hope you've gained a better understanding of the multiple issues and made a commitment to stand for a better tomorrow with us.
Yes.
In this initiative, we will use the acronym STAND to describe the effort. STAND is for seize the moment, talk to your circle, act on your biases, no more silence, and donate your resources. We would also like to thank our partners at DHG for their support throughout this initiative.
That's right.
We thank their entire team for all their support in making this a reality. If you'd like to see one of our past segments, please visit us at www.youngblackleadership.org/community-conversations.
All right, to move to the call to action. Now, last time we talked about how there are so many families that were really suffering this holiday season. So we wanted to have a goal to serve 300 families. But one good thing about it is we actually reached our goal.
300, all
we
right.
We reached the 300 goal, but we know that there are so many more than 300 families that are in need. So we wanted to continue the same call to action so we can actually serve more families. So our deadline is going to be tomorrow. So please give a little bit more to help us so we'll be able to extend it. Maybe we can go to 400 families. I don't know. So we're going to push it all the way to tomorrow.
Yep.
So, but first we want to give a special shout out to Deloitte for donating $5,000 towards this project, and True Lion for donating $1,000, and all the others that have given money towards this cause. Because I'm sure if you look at the news, you see people are really, really struggling during this holiday season. So what we'll do is just take a minute or two to give you an opportunity to give anything, any amount will do. Of course, 100% will go towards the project.
Yeah, Eric, if you would pop that slide back up again so folks can actually see the link that they can donate to.
Yes.
It's just amazing that even, we made the slide yesterday, we had 20 families to go and now we're over 300.
Yeah,
so
I know, that's cool.
People are giving at this time, which is awesome and amazing. We're just super excited about that. And just, you know, you've seen the news.
Right,
and you've seen the long lines. I think they said it's a 500% increase.
500%.
On the number of families that are in need. And these are people that literally haven't had to go to a food shelter before. So.
Exactly. And also a big part of what we do is service.
Yeah.
And since COVID, we've really been haven't been able to do the service that we wanted to because of all the precautions, but it gave us an opportunity to be able to serve families. And we're going to do like a drive-through, as you can see on the slide, where our leaders can serve and still be safe. So it gives an opportunity to get out. So we're going to be doing that this weekend. So we're really excited to partner with Crisis Assistance Ministries.
Ministry Assistance.
We also have a couple of more that we'll be partnering with.
Hidden Valley Elementary School.
Right, Audrey Cale High School. So yeah, we are excited about that.
It's a time of giving. Now's the season. So if you guys would make a donation, well, 100% of the funds actually goes directly to the families. We are going out and purchasing gift cards, and we're going to get the gift cards tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah. So tomorrow's the deadline. So if you want to give, please go ahead and give. I think we can get this thing rolling.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
All right.
And you'll be able to give throughout and we'll get Abuna to put the link in the chat so you'll be able to give throughout the segment.
Awesome.
All right. So you ready? Let's get rolling here. So for our final segment this year, We want to celebrate our actions and check back in with some of our past panelists to give you an update on their progress. So you get to hear from them a little later. But first, we wanted to let you hear a clip from Trey Ackerman. He's actually the one that really pushed us to do this and continue the initiative. So Trey was gracious enough to make a quick video for us because he was unable to join us today, but we definitely wanted you to hear from him. So Eric, will you please play that clip of Trey?
Roll the video.
Thank you so much, John and Tammy, for giving me the opportunity to share today. It's been amazing to see our community conversations come to life throughout calendar year 20. But most importantly, to see the actions that have been driven by so many across our communities as we look to eliminate the disparities that unfortunately continue to exist in society. It's also hard to believe that we're about to close a calendar year 20 and turn the page as we move into 2021. And we remain excited and optimistic that the conversations will continue, but most importantly, that the actions will continue by so many as we look to move into a new reality that we talk about so often within the realms of YBLA. So I hope everyone has a wonderful holiday season. I hope everyone has a safe and happy new year. And we look forward to the finale that we've got planned here today, and certainly reconvening and seeing everyone in the new year as we embark on 2021. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Now, I know Trey's not here, but I want to say it for the record. Thank you, Trey, for that great message. So let's go ahead and get started. So we're going to roll on to our panelists. First up, we want to bring to the screen, to the stage, Andrea from Bank of America. So last time, Andrea talked about $1 billion effort that Bank of America is rolling out. I am super excited to hear where they're going with that and get some updates. Andrea, would you please come on and just give us a quick update, please?
Hello, John. Hello, Tammy. And thanks so much for having me today. Before I get started, I just would like to thank both of you for your tireless leadership and the impact you've had in our community. I was looking at your website and the statistics around the kids that you've impacted, the college graduation rate at 98%, just phenomenal. So thank you both for being a catalyst and doing such great work in our community that's making an impact.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.
And on this challenge, how much are you all trying to raise? I think it's important that we keep getting that number out there.
Right.
Yeah, so we were trying to raise 15,000 and support 300 families. So we're at 300, and again, we would love to continue to support some more families. So
I'm encouraging everyone to do that too. So send in your number to John and Tammy via the chat so we can tally it up at the end. But thank you all again for having me. And we did talk about the $1 billion the last time I was on, and that's such a big number to get your head around. It's sort of $1 billion over 4 years. What are you doing with that? And, I'm proud to say that Bank of America is a company that's always been committed to diversity and inclusion. And honestly, it's why I've stayed here for 32 years. The values of the company are very similar to mine. We do a lot of internal programs before we made the $1 billion announcement. We just had our Global Diversity Inclusion Council meeting this week with leaders around the globe, and we've made progress in across the board in representation from a diversity perspective. Equally important, we've made a lot of progress on inclusion. And we talk a lot at the company about being able to bring your whole self to work, because if you can't, then we know we're not getting the best out of our employees and they're not getting the best out of us. So that's been a constant pillar of our work. If we come back to the $1 billion, what we really wanted to do after the George Floyd killing and Breonna Taylor, the list goes on, sadly and heartbreakingly, but we really wanted to be a catalyst. $1 billion isn't going to fix everything that needs to be fixed from a systemic perspective, but it can be a catalyst. And we've seen that happen. But for our $1 billion, we broke it up into buckets. And you can talk about the buckets and really being focused on direct investment in minority entrepreneurs, direct investments into minority depository institutions to support lending, housing, neighborhood revitalization. And we put 100 million there, 50 million there, And what we're doing, though, hopefully people are seeing this, we're announcing these investments on a regular basis. We don't want the billion to stay up here as this big amorphous number. We want to talk about the actual investment we're making into these MDIs. And so we've announced 13 so far, and we'll keep announcing them as we go because we want people to see the money in action. The second thing we've done is announced that we're putting $25 million into community colleges and HBCUs, $1 million into each of them. And the point of that comes back to the mission of YBLA, which is about creating jobs. We are working in the localities of these HBCUs and community colleges and Hispanic institutions to collaborate with other businesses in those markets we're doing Central Piedmont Community College in our own backyard. We gave $1 million to. And we've said to Dr. Diedemeyer, we want to commit to hiring this number of people coming out of these programs. So kids know going in, if they complete this curriculum, they have a job. We don't want it to be just us. We're bringing other companies along with us to make that same commitment. And we're doing that in all these cities around the country where we put this $1 million into these different institutions. We also did North Carolina A&T State University just for our broader North Carolina population. And the same exact work is going on there. We've also used the $1 billion to donate PPE equipment to low and moderate income communities, to homeless shelters around the country. We will be up to 20 million masks that we've donated this year to these communities. We've also now increased to gloves and hand sanitizer, that there was a disproportionate impact of this virus and this terrible disease to those communities. So we also know that we have the buying power and the scale, and we feel it's part of our obligation to get these masks out free for all of our partners in these different places. And then finally, the other thing that we just announced, I hope people saw, is we created a partnership with CVS to fund a no-cost flu voucher program for under-resourced communities. And we're piloting that in 7 places around the US, including Detroit, Dallas, Jacksonville, Oklahoma City, Phoenix, Boston, and Greater DC. Again, trying to get to these places that have been the hardest hit in different ways and getting these resources out there. So I'll stop there. That's just kind of the tip of the iceberg of things that we've done since we've last met. John and Tammy, I can't hear you. So I don't know if something happened to my mic. Can anyone else hear John and Tammy?
Okay, can you hear us now?
Yes, awesome. So what I said
Now we back.
was that's a big iceberg, number one. So definitely appreciate that. $1 billion actually goes a long way. So we definitely are excited to hear about that. So Tammy, talk a little bit about next question.
Yeah, the next question I have for you, Miss Andrea, is what lessons have you learned through all of this? Just your personal lessons. Is there anything you like to share and just what you have learned through this?
Well, I think a couple of things. I'll talk about what we've learned as a company, which is this work that we're doing is catalytic. Since we've made the $1 billion announcement, you can see other companies have announced billions or multi-billions, and that's what we want. This is not a competition, but more a collaboration. If we can get more people out there doing that, then we know we can join forces and drive change that will be lasting change. Personally, what I've learned is that it takes time to understand how we got here and why we're here. And I encourage everyone, we do this thing called Courageous Conversations in the company. We gave $25 million to the Smithsonian to start creating these around the world. But it can be just one-on-one conversations, and that's what I've had a lot of. And it's about asking questions, and it's about listening, and it's about trying to put yourself in someone else's shoes, even for a moment. I'm not Black, I'm not Hispanic, I'm not going through the things that some of my teammates are going through or that they go through every day. But if I can spend time and understand their journey, it gives me a bit more perspective. And I will never be able to understand it fully, but the more people can do that, Tammy, the more that I think we're going to be able to create the dialogue to drive the change that we need to do. It's about people looking inside and spending their time and really, focusing on this and not just letting things happen around them. It's being very deliberate and purposeful as part of my journey that I've learned.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that intentionality is one of the things that, we've missed over time. And without being specific and thinking about it and being real intentional, that's really what drives success and drives action. So we definitely appreciate that. So what goals or actions are you guys targeting for 21?
Well, I think you're going to see, John, a lot more of the same from us. You're going to see us participating in a lot of different partnerships. An announcement came out last week on a new organization called 110 that's being led by Ken Frazier, Ken Chenault, Jenny Romedy. We're a founding partner there. And the goal of that is to hire 1 million Black Americans over the next 10 years. And you've got many companies that are all contributing to this and committing. The key thing here is committing to being part of this change. We're part of that. We're part of the Business Roundtable. We're continuing to do donations. We're going to continue to do philanthropic. But I think what you're going to see us continue to do is make these announcements locally. That's one of the other things that we've seen work really well and have a lot of impact, whether it's in Charlotte or Atlanta or Greensboro or Dallas or Oklahoma City. Understanding the needs of that community and figuring out how we can bring our heft and power and leverage there to drive that necessary change. So you're going to see a lot more of that locally. You're going to see us collaborating with businesses to create jobs. You're going to see us working with businesses to impact legislation, to drive systems change, to make sure that we're trying to overturn laws, rules, regs that are getting in the way of us all being able to do the right thing. So all of that is on the horizon, and you will continue to see us make announcements as we go there.
Yeah, so that my last thought here is really around that jobs. And you and I were kind of just talking a little bit about how do we get, young Black men and women, how do we get them into internships, into jobs, and get them positioned so we can get that movement that we're looking for, that social mobility that we're looking for. Any thoughts and ideas on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's critical. And I think, really what I would put out is a challenge for everyone that we can all participate in making a change there. I mean, Bank of America is a lot bigger, I get it, and we have a lot more that we can do. But if every company, big or small or nonprofit, commits to hiring at least one intern and giving them an experience and opening a door and showing what's possible. I mean, part of what we're trying to do is, it's hard to imagine what you can be if you can't see it, if you've never had anyone talk to you about the opportunities that your skill set can translate into. So I think all of us can participate in some degree in that challenge, John, and we need to. It is incumbent upon all of us to get creative. I mean, Bank of America, everyone thinks you might have to have a business degree or a finance degree. We're hiring more liberal arts majors than we've ever hired because we want people that can communicate, can connect the dots, can think strategically. And if you choose to go into a field at the Bank of America that requires a more technical business degree, we can train you in bond math or accounting. We've got tons of training programs. But the communication piece, the connection piece, that's so critical. So it's also about dispelling myths and ideas that people have of skills they have to go work in a company. I mean, we've got more patents than any other bank. We have almost 450 patents that we've created. We've got a very entrepreneurial spirit here. And so it's helping kids understand different paths and different ways that they can learn and grow. And I just think we can all be part of that, John, and we should be. We need to be if we want to do what we're all talking about here.
Yes, Andrea, you are literally singing off our sheet of music over here. Because that is exactly what we say all the time. Because our young people, just what you said, you cannot be it unless you see it.
Right.
And probably one of the most important things that we do in YBLA is exposing our young people to the possibilities. So we really thank you for that, because part of what we do, especially for our high school and our college students, is get them those experiences, those internships. So that's why we always coming at your companies to have, please just give us a few, okay? So we have all these aspiring young Black leaders who are willing and want to get into these big companies. So we really do appreciate Bank of America kind of leading the charge and bringing other companies with you, because you're right, we all have a part to do in this. And I know Bank of America is huge, but even small companies can do just a little part, even if it's just hiring one intern. So we definitely thank you for that, Andrea. Thank you for all the work that Bank of America has done. And thanks for coming in and sharing the progress of Bank of America. We will definitely keep our ears open and probably be coming back to you too.
Great. Thank you all again. And thank you for the work you're leading. I'm proud to be a small part of it.
Yes.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Yes. All right. Well, next, what we want to do is bring up Miss Kristen from Belk, our new friends over at Belk. Yeah, that's our new best friends. So Kristen is a plant. Now you have to explain your title to us, Kristen, and tell us some good stuff that's going over at Belk.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me on today. I know we've really appreciated working with you and your team over the last couple of months, and for bringing the community conversations to the forefront of a lot of our conversations that we've been having. I know myself personally, but our team as well has really been impacted by these conversations over the last 6 months. But yes, I'm a merchandise planner at Belk, so do work with our buying and planning teams to help roll up the financial aspect of different areas of the business, mine being women's specifically. So what we've really been doing at Belk over the last 6 months is kind of a twofold conversation. First, as an overall company, they jumped right into the idea of really focusing on making sure that inclusion and diversity is the forefront of our conversations as a company. And we started the idea that's called learning circles. So we would meet as different groups, about 10 to 12 people across the company. So most likely you are paired with people that you've never met before, different areas of the business. Because when we were in the office, close to 1,000 people we worked with. So really getting to learn the backgrounds and experiences of people all across the company. And we would focus each month on different conversations that were really facing our current community within this systemic racism conversations, just really helping to learn and get the conversation out there and let people be vulnerable and be their true selves at work. And with that, our actual planning team, which I know we've been working with you guys pretty closely recently, created our own diversity and inclusion group. And this is very associate led. We have about 20 or 30 people that participated on these calls each week. Basically, how we had it set up is something that inspired the conversation for one person each week would lead the group, whether it be a TED Talk or one of your YBLA community conversations, an article. And we would discuss as a group, our impacts, thoughts, learning observations from these, and then how can we grow. I know myself personally, conversation that you guys had around Black females in corporate America and the inequalities that they face. And that was what I chose to bring to my community conversation that week with our team, and was really well received. So just having those conversations, both in our small groups and in our overall Belk groups, has been a great start to 2020. And I know that this is only the foundation where we continue to grow from here.
That is so awesome. Yeah. So we didn't even know that you guys were doing this in the background. That's one of the things that,
right.
You do these community conversations and you just don't realize how many people are actually being impacted. It's an action that you guys have taken and have done several times. And thank you for inviting us on. So they actually invited us on to have a conversation with them. So we really enjoy that as well. Absolutely. Absolutely. So what have you learned? So out of all that, what have you learned from this?
I think the biggest thing I would say personally, and from hearing from different people throughout our groups, learning to be uncomfortable and have conversations that sometimes might be tough with your coworkers, your family members, friends, and then also being able to call out when you see racism, in action, throughout your personal life, on the news, and being able to have those conversations, I think, was a big key thing that has been for me. And then, our group, as we meet each week, and you kind of watch throughout these conversations how people open up more and more and feel comfortable speaking out, and expressing how they, maybe even had those conversations with people outside of our group, I think has been big. And then also understanding, maybe through some of these conversations that we've had, articles that we've read, conversations that we've listened to through your conversations, where are you having that unconscious bias, or maybe, where you had acts of racism that you weren't aware of, or others that you had noticed having those conversations, and how do you change that dynamic go forward, I think has been another big thing that we have learned. And then just being a more diverse organization. I know Andrea touched on a lot of this. How do we get a more diverse recruiting opportunities? Do we go to some historically Black colleges, getting our networking experience out there to provide, to different organizations like yourself, the exposure and experience to things that we're doing at Belk that they might not be as familiar with prior.
Awesome. That is so awesome. You guys are doing an amazing job. We definitely appreciate all your support. You guys are a new sponsor of ours through that as well. So we are very, very appreciative of all the great work, and hopefully you guys will continue to do great work. We even have some things planned for 2021. So you want to touch a little bit on that?
Yeah, I'd love to. I mean, we have really appreciated working with you guys and are excited for some things that we'd already talked about, and go forward in 2020. Main things that we're focusing on, especially with organizations like yourself, how do we do professional engagement days, interview days, to be able to have your students get exposure to not only what we do at Belk, but interview practicing, trainings on Excel, financial responsibility, things like that. And then just getting exposure to what the different types of jobs and internships that we offer that, maybe not be, I know people think of Belk and think just retail, but we have so many more things under the cover than just buying and clothes that we would love to be able to expose students to, and just really getting involved in our community, both from a time standpoint, but also a dollar contribution as well. Giving back to the community. I know that even in 2020, we were able to partner with 3 hometown organizations, and YBLA being one of them, and donate more than $75,000 to some of these groups, and really focusing on the Charlotte area, but then also within our stores, they're also encouraged to donate and spend time within their local community. So we have 300 stores throughout the Southeast. So really getting involved within our community go forward is a big step for us. And then just continuing these conversations. I know from our company-wide learning circle, we've led to now into what we call all in. So moving from your learning into taking true action, and how we can hold ourselves accountable in a lot of things that we have been discussing the last 6 months, and how we can move forward. So really excited to keep working with you guys and all what's ahead in 2021.
Yeah, thank you, Kristen. We're looking forward to working with you too. You probably got my long email the other day, right? On all the good stuff we're going to be doing with y'all. So. But thank you, Kristen. Thanks for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Now we're going to move to Mr. John Brown. All right. Mr. Brown, the managing director at Bearings. Thanks for joining us. So we want to hear from you and all the successes that's going on in Bearings.
Yeah, first, John, Tammy, I want to thank you both for inviting me to speak today. I also want to applaud you and your organization on just the high quality, impactful job that your organization has done. So thank you.
Thank you.
When we were last here, it was Tom that spoke, and Tom mentioned up front, he said, look, we've got a lot of work to do. And I'm very encouraged by the focus that we've had on diversity and inclusion initiatives, and very hopeful for the future. One of the things that we've done, of course, you need top quality leadership. You've got to have a top quality cohesive strategy. We've hired a new chief diversity, equity, and inclusion officer, Chastity Boyce. She has a wealth of experience in a number of sectors. We've also hired a new head of HR, Carolyn Mandeville, who comes from a larger organization, and she's got deep experience in D&I as well. So very eagerly awaiting both the strategy and just very hopeful about where we go from here as well. The other thing I'll say is it's important to have support from the top, but it's not enough. It really has to be a whole firm effort when we talk about any cultural change initiative or diversity, equity, and inclusion. And what we've done at Barings, employees have launched 3 new employee resource groups. We have Out and Allies, the Barings Black Talent Network, which will serve our Europe and UK employees, as well as I'm pleased and very grateful to have been asked to co-lead the Barings Black Alliance, which will be and is our Black ERG. I'm co-leading that with my partner, Jennifer Brown, who is a leader in one of our New York teams, helps us with fundraising.
All right.
Yes. In addition to that, just wanted to touch really briefly on some of the cultural change initiatives. Firm has rolled out unconscious bias training. All managing directors and directors have gone through that training. I personally went through it and felt it was a good start to what, again, will be a journey. One of the big takeaways, and I know I might be skipping ahead here, one of the big takeaways for myself has been the diversity and inclusion path is much more of a journey. It's not a destination. And I go back to what Tom originally said. He says, we've got a lot of work to do. I don't think that work ever stops. I think we just keep getting better and better and better at it and continue to focus on it.
Mm-hmm.
Totally
agree with that.
That is 100% true.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the things that I say. I see the rest of our panelists are all nodding their heads too. It's really a journey, and I think we have to make sure we stay true to the course, be intentional, as Andrea was saying, be really intentional about where we're going and what we're doing. And I applaud you guys for the great work. I mean, just you guys got 2 hires in here in the last couple of months, which is phenomenal. And started up an employee group. So talk to me a little bit more about the Black employee group that you guys started.
Yeah, the Barings Black Alliance. It is an employee resource group. Our mission is to support the mentorship, development, and mentorship and development of Black professionals at Barings. And the way that we do that specifically is through reaching out to all of our employees at Barings, seeking to inspire all of us to become ambassadors for diversity, equity, and inclusion at Barings. The ultimate goal is to become the employer of choice for diverse talent in the asset management industry.
That's an awesome goal. That's definitely an awesome goal. Yeah.
Hey, John, can you tell us some lessons that you have learned personally and professionally?
Yeah, I think, when I think about D&I, it's important to start with the data, particularly in data-focused organizations. I think it's okay to start with the D&I initiative because it fits our principles. It's who we are. That's important. It's also important to bring it back home to the business goal for diversity, the business rationale for diversity, and the data allows us to do that. The data also allows us to benchmark ourselves so that as we continue down the journey, we can see how we're doing at any point in time. The other piece, I think, from a more personal level, when we talk about any change initiative, particularly for diversity and inclusion, we have to be courageous. Everyone has to be courageous. We may say the wrong thing at times. We have to remain intellectually curious. Both aspects are certainly very important.
That is awesome. That's awesome. Yeah. So kind of piggybacking on top of that, like what goals, actions do you guys have for 2021? Because you've done a lot already. And like you said, it's a journey What do you have right in front of you kind of in 2021 in that journey?
You know, one thing I'll call going beyond the four walls of the university. Sorry, going beyond the four walls of Barings to partner, that is, with universities. We've heard about HBCUs, so our plan is also to, in terms of increasing diversity, particularly for new hires, do a better job of partnering with both HBCUs, partnering with majority universities as well. Our key pathway to Barings for the early career employees and early career professionals is through our internship program. Our internship program then feeds our 2-year analyst program. So we've also partnered with organizations like SEO, Twigo, other really high quality organizations that focus on pulling top diverse talent really nationally. In addition to that, plan to expand some existing initiatives that we have. Affordable housing is one that I want to focus on. We've got one affordable housing program today in Westerly Hills that's here local in Charlotte. The thing I'll highlight about that is that's a mortgage that the firm has provided, but we provided that mortgage at a below market interest rate. And a lot of times you hear about impact investing and you hear about wanting to make investments in the community, but when you ask, are you willing to accept a below market rate of return, you get crickets. You know, here's a great example of something that we've done, a good tangible example where we have decided to accept a below market rate of return to make an impact in the community. We've got other partnerships with the Gantt Museum. They have an equity and innovation initiative that has a social justice exhibit element to it. It also has an education element to it with a goal of building more equity in classrooms. And then the last I'll mention is a new partnership with the Urban League of Central Carolinas. They do have a jobs-focused program. They've got 4 key sectors, 4 key job sectors. What I love about each one of those sectors is they all offer a living wage. And so we're very excited about the partnership there. With regard to the Barings Black Alliance, our ERG, we're planning to roll out some programming that'll be complementary to Barings programming. We actually have one of the top former DE&I officers of one of the largest, formerly of one of the largest companies in the US. Right now, she's actually interim CEO of a large media company. We're going to bring her in. She's going to talk about diversity and inclusion. She's going to talk about the role of an ERG, what ERGs can do, how they can help move an organization along the path to cultural competency. And she's going to talk about how to develop a culture where everyone can bring their full and authentic selves.
That is really good stuff, John. Thank you. I can just see the enthusiasm as you're talking about your goals at Barings for 2021. So that is great. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate everything that Barings is doing.
Thank you. Take care.
Yeah. All righty. Moving right along, we're going to move over to Novant. Is that Dr. Jerome Williams?
Good doctor.
I know in your area has to be really hopping over there because of the new vaccine that has rolled out. So tell us, Dr. Williams, how's things been going on your front? What successes have Novant had?
Yeah. So once again, John and Tammy, thank you for having me on, and thank you for the great work that you are doing in the community and your great leadership. Where we are in Novant is it's a situation where we have been on this journey for a number of years. We have successfully changed the culture of our organization with DI&E under the leadership of Tanya Blackman. And the last speaker, John, really hit the nail on the head. It has been a cultural change in our organization, such that when COVID hit and the social unrest hit, we were, 1, not surprised, number 2, very aware, number 3, already proactive in understanding where we needed to go and where we needed to be. And that is continue to double down on our partnerships in the community. It's really about partnerships and deeply connecting with the community, especially if you want to impact the social determinants of health, housing insecurity, lack of access to healthcare, upward mobility. Now, while we are healthcare experts at Novant and we are not experts in housing and food, we are an anchor institution that's created a platform to bring those subject matter experts so that we can leverage the subject matter experts, leverage the scale of different organizations such as the Bank of Americas, such as Barron's, so that we can partner and leverage the scale to do what we need to do and to affect the communities that we know need the greatest impact. So I'm really happy that we were already leading in that particular area. Business resource groups were mentioned earlier. We've had business resource groups for years, and they run the spectrum, and they inform us. They inform us of not only what is going on with our 30,000 employees, but also informs us about what is going on in the communities. Specific to the vaccine, because I think that's something we really need to touch on.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation out there in the media. And now that we have the vaccine and we're in phase 1A, which means that frontline healthcare workers, paramedics, those individuals high risk will be the first phase to receive the vaccine. However, we are already in the process of meeting, setting up, and collaborating with our communities, because we have to first and foremost begin the education process. We have to speak about the science. We have to speak about the facts. And we also have to listen to the fears and concerns, because those fears and concerns are real. They're real. But we have to also put them in perspective. And then at the end of the day, we have to look at, is it much better for the community as a whole to be vaccinated or not? And the short answer is absolutely yes, unequivocally. Now we just have to get to that. How do we get to that point?
Yeah, yeah. That one's maybe a little tough, because even just in my own family, it's like, I don't know if I'm going to take that vaccine.
Right,
so. Right. That's going to be a lot of education there.
It's about education and communication. However, it's also about trust. You know, we spent a lot of time at Novant developing trust in the community. You can, and trust is a journey too, right? You can never have absolute trust. So you have to continue to build on the relationship. And in order to build trust, you have to do what you say you're going to do and continually do it.
Right.
Hmm. So throughout all the issues and the racial unrest and the things that you're seeing, what have you learned? Like, what have you learned? And then what do you think your company has learned?
Yeah. So first and foremost, when we look at our strategic framework for how we engage in our communities, one of the challenges that we want to confront are structural inequities, right? Policies, rules, and regulations that either are intentionally or unintentionally put in place, okay? What I've said to the team here for a while now is that structural inequity or those structural barriers would probably be the most difficult to change. It'll probably take the longest to change because it's rules, regulation, and the bottom line is politics. With a pandemic and social unrest, it's been flipped on its head. And so that what I've learned is that those rules and regulations and policies are able to be challenged much more aggressively, can change a lot faster than we thought they could. And as you've heard from others on the call, if there are enough voices pushing the correct levers, those policies and rules and regulations can fall very, very quickly. So that's what I've learned. And as well as the institution has learned, that those perceived barriers are just that, perceived. And we will now we'll be challenging them from an advocacy standpoint much more aggressive.
Mm-hmm. So Jerome, I know Novant has a lot of things that you have been doing. What would you say is on the forefront for goals for 2021?
So doubling down on what we've been engaged in the last 5 to 10 years, which is understanding that health is really foundationally about the neighborhoods individuals come from. Yes, there's biology, yes, there's genetics, but that's only 20% of chronic medical problems. 80% has to do with the social determinants of health. So in 2020, we're going to continue to double down and triple down and continue to link up with partners. The goal for 2021 is really to scale a number of the activities we've already been engaged in to make a greater impact. Not just, a few hundred or a few thousand, tens of thousands we are able to impact. If you think big and swing big, then we'll have big impact. And so partnering with YBLA, partnering with Barron's, partnering with Bank of America, we all bring something to the table. And with that collective, there's so much more we can do. And so that's our goal for 2021.
All right.
All right. Swing big. I love it. I love it. Yeah. Well, thank you for your time, sir. Thank you for joining us again. We definitely appreciate it, and excited to see Novant and all the great work that you guys are going to do.
And look forward to continuing to work with you in 2021.
Yeah,
Awesome.
and thank you to you and Adele for supporting YBLA
Yes.
too.
Oh, thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. Now we're going to move on to Miss Erin Barbie. Now, Erin, you was on our segment talking about housing. So we know that was a big disparity that John and I, when we were researching during the conversations, we was like, oh my gosh, just to get our head wrapped around the racial disparities in housing. So, but we're very excited to have you on the panel so you can bring us up to date on any successes or what's been going on in your world.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. And John and Tammy, I just want to start by saying thank you for bringing these conversations forward. It's important that we talk about it, but not only talk about it, but have action. And you all have created a space of action for us, and you're following up with us for accountability. So I really appreciate that. So when we talked last time, we were just at the very beginning of the impact of COVID-19 on the housing industry, right? At that point in time, we didn't have any specific data about how it was impacting us, but that's changed significantly. At the Housing Partnership, we took on a project that we had never dreamt that we would go into, which was rental assistance and direct service assistance. And we ended up being able to have a very successful program administering rent, mortgage, hotel, and utility assistance to those who were impacted negatively by COVID-19. And that hardship runs far and deep, more so than we could ever measure in 2020. But I'm happy to say that for our programs, we were able to successfully help over 3,300 families to be able to remain successfully housed for one reason or another. Whether that be keeping someone in their rental unit, whether that's a single family home or a multifamily unit, or keeping them in their unit by being able to keep their utilities on, right? And also being able to keep people in who were staying in long-term hotels, which was actually a realization I didn't even understand, with how many people were living in hotels as their permanent residents. Right. And so overall, we've been able to administer over $19 million since March of this year. And we've been able to utilize those funds as equitably as possible and across all of Charlotte. But we did see that there was a disproportionate use of funds in our Black and Brown neighborhoods. Specifically in zip code 28216 and 28208, which matches completely to that arc and wedge that we talk about a lot of disparity within our city. So it brought up a lot of information. It brought up a lot of confirmation of the disparities in access to resources and the impact of COVID-19. But more so, it's a call to action for anyone related to or connected to the housing industry, that there's so much more work to do, but now we have more data behind it.
Yeah.
Oh, that is so awesome. Man, 19 million, that's a huge number. Good. Yeah.
3,300 families.
Yeah, that is
awesome.
Great. So from all of that, what have you learned?
Yeah.
So personally, I've been really proximate to the layered issues that people have experienced as a result of COVID-19. I think that in my world, right, in the housing space, it's easy to get siloed and say we need to just talk about affordable housing. But it's really broadened my thinking as I've talked to families who were experiencing some hardships that I could never imagine. Like when you think specifically about the single mother of 4 living in a hotel, knowing that she lost her job and her children wouldn't be able to get remote learning if they were kicked out, and knowing that another job opportunity is not on the forefront because she needs to stay home to take care of her children. When you hear those stories, not only is it heartbreaking, but it gives you that fire to go ahead and implement policy and implement change. And it really fired me up personally. From a professional perspective, the Housing Partnership has realigned its commitment to the work we were already doing as it pertains to economic mobility. What we get is that racial wealth gap is significant, and it's happening in a more exacerbated way because of COVID-19. And we've learned that we need to tailor our education and our access to programs to specifically single mothers and young Black men. We found that investment will go quite far if we tailor that information. And we also need to work on Black home ownership.
Yeah.
I mean, if we saw that there was a significant low usage of funds for mortgage assistance and a high usage of funds for rental assistance, which tells us something. Within our Black and brown communities, we have low mortgage holders. We have low access to having homes, where you can't build equity, you can't build wealth, you can't pull yourself out of a dangerous financial situation. And so we need to be committed to Black home ownership.
Yeah, 100% agree. And Aaron, thank you so much for all the work that y'all have done, just to be able to support that many families, that much money that's going out. I mean, that's amazing, especially during this time of year, to be able to, to provide that type of information. So we definitely appreciate that. And we're going to have to go a little faster because we're getting all into this conversation and time is going down. But we want to thank you for joining us, Aaron. And
Absolutely.
we're going to move on over to Kyle King. And
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Aaron.
Thanks.
All right, Kyle, as we said, last but not least.
Hello. It's great to see you guys again.
Yeah, great seeing you, Kyle. And we just have to start out thanking you just for all the support you have given us this year, first of all. But yeah, we're going to let you give us 5 minutes to, Kyle, on just where you are and the successes that you have seen from your vantage point.
Of course. Erin made such a great point earlier when she talked about the single mother that got kicked out of her home with 2 children through a pandemic that needed digital learning access. And when we think about that story, and then we also think about the statistic of 40% of rural families in America don't have broadband internet, she even communicated that the story of that single mother, the story of those children that are now homeless, the story of those students that won't be able to access equitable opportunities in their education, move the needle forward. And if I give you a stat, you would probably nod your head. But if I give you a powerful story, that forces you to take action, because I believe that a lot of professionals, just in my experience, we're so focused on finding the data points to be able to collect stats so that we can see where we need to move the needle. But as people, as actual human beings, it's powerful stories that allow us to be empathetic and enough to empower us to be able to take action immediately. So since our last conversation, I've done just that. Yes, my 7th book has been able to launch. Yes, my son gratefully turned 5 years old. But I've really been able to work within our communities on capturing their stories so that we can craft their ideas and then publish those stories out in our communities as a whole. And with that, I've been able to work with 40 individuals specifically on really magnifying their voices, magnifying their experiences, magnifying their struggles and their pain, and finding a way to leverage their pain through a pandemic, even if they're homeless, even if they're jobless and unemployed, so that I can help them find a way to be able to create equitable opportunities or create revenue strategies as well. Some of these authors have went off to create $10,000 in revenue every single month. So $10,000 to that single mother that just lost her job, that got kicked out, that her 2 children need digital learning. That's a life change. So I think a lot of times we're worried about the action, but there's a process. So my action and my execution has been focusing on the actual route and going to these people, finding their stories, capturing their stories, and teaching them how to leverage their stories to be able to make them more profitable.
That's awesome. So out of that, what have you learned other than the stories part? Like personally, what have you picked up?
That's a great question. I had a conversation with a friend of mine. He's a senior developer at Lockheed Martin. And he was explaining to me that I believe over 200,000 people, there's 200,000 unfilled computer programming jobs at Lockheed Martin, I believe.
Wow.
And I looked up a statistic, and a lot of statistics said a lot of different things. And I read one specific statistic that said there was over 1 million unfilled computer programming jobs. And when we look at disenfranchisement, when we look at our communities as a whole, when we're talking about racial equity and diversity and inclusion, and we talk about the lack thereof opportunities in our Black and brown communities, but we have over 1 million unfilled opportunities in computer programming, my mind goes directly of what I've learned is that we lack the professional skills, the training, and the education to be able to fill these roles. You know, Andrea talked earlier about what Bank of America is doing. You know, Barings is doing some great internship opportunities and working with HBCUs. But what about these students or the people or the professionals that didn't have the opportunity of going to these colleges and universities that still continue to be in these communities that are not being able to see, you know, economic mobility and being able to move forward? So I think what I've learned is that there's a population of people, a vast population of people that don't possess the skills that the industry needs. And as AI technology is continuing to increase within our professional networks and within our industries, it's not moving jobs, it's increasing productivity. So it's going to create more jobs. But the jobs that are created in the fields of technology, Black and brown communities will not be able to fill those jobs because they lack the professional skills to be able to move and excel within these professions.
All right, Kyle, so in about 45 seconds, give us I give you two goals that you are personally or your company going to focus on for 2021.
Definitely. So I'll knock it out in 30 seconds. So I rolled out a 999 model. So I'll be helping 9 authors every single month through my authorsellingssystem.com. And I will be helping 9 businesses per quarter create scalability plans to generate $100,000. And then I'll be interning. I'll be bringing on 9 students every single 9 weeks to be able to provide them professional skills, exposure, and then be able to also advance them as a part of their high school and college careers. So I'm focusing on 999 through the month or through the year of 2021.
Now, Kyle, how did you come up with 9?
So 9, interesting question. So 9 is the number that represents initiation, graduation, and progression. It's the final phase of a period of growth. So if you think about 29, you're going into 30, 39, you're going into 40. So I think I've been in the entrepreneurial space for the last 6 years and been able to build a multi-6-figure company and help 30,000 people. So as I'm progressing, moving forward, I wanted to represent the number 9 as I help other people progress forward as well.
Right. I knew there was some education behind that.
Absolutely.
I knew it, Kyle.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Kyle. We definitely appreciate it as we start to wrap up. You're always a special guest in our heart, and we definitely appreciate the great work, and your mind is amazing. So
amazing.
Yeah. So thank you, sir. So we'd like to thank all of our panelists today, and then all of our panelists all year.
Yeah.
I mean, for the whole 6 month, this initiative has been amazing.
Yes, it has.
It really helped us to reach our goal. We made our 2020
yes
goal. Yes.
So that's the celebration. We wanted to let everyone know that we did reach over 2020 goals.
Yeah.
Right?
So we actually had 2. So our goals, we made it 2020, which is amazing. I know we got to wrap up here, but that was just great for us to be able to do that. And Thank you, Abuna, for your work. He's
Right.
behind the scenes in the background back there for us. And thank you
Yes.
for the great work that you've done back there. So we definitely appreciate it.
Right. So, and we also want to thank you all for joining us today and supporting YBLA Community Conversations for 2020. We want to thank all of our amazing panelists today and the whole year. We also want to thank our partners from DHG for supporting us this year.
Yeah. They are so amazing.
Yeah.
They're doing all the great work. So next year's theme
Next
will be
year.
Stand 21, Closing the Gap.
That's it.
Super excited about closing the gap. So over the past 6 months, we've discussed so many gaps, the achievement gaps, the wage gap, the employment gap. And what we realize is they're all interrelated.
All connected.
So therefore, in 2021, we want to drill deeper.
Yes.
And we want to continue to close those
Closing
gaps
the gap.
through action.
Yes.
So we'll expand our reach nationwide. We'll have expert panelists from across the country to join us, which we're super excited about that.
Yes, and actually, next year for our community conversations, it will be held every third Tuesday of the month. So the first one coming up is going to be Tuesday, January the 19th. And this segment, we're already excited about this one. It's going to be facilitated by Lillian Medville. Now, you may have heard of her. She is an artist, a facilitator, and a game designer she developed Your Privilege is Showing.
Your Privilege is Showing.
Right. So during the segment, we will get an opportunity to learn how to recognize, name, and describe privilege. So you don't want to miss that. And that is January the 19th.
All right. So as we continue to close the gap, we're going to really focus on closing the education gap.
Yeah,
so I'm proud to announce that YBLA will be launching a year-long scholarship campaign. So we talked about that. So this will be a great opportunity to invest in the future of a young Black student.
Yes.
So look forward to it. So we're looking forward to a great and wonderful year.
Yes.
You guys have a great, wonderful holiday season. Thank you, everybody.
And please continue to be safe.
Be safe. Have a great one. Thanks.